Welcome to the REV Your Agency podcast, the most candid and authentic life insurance and annuity podcast that is hell-bent on helping you be more honest, ethical, productive, and profitable. Tune in and you're going to get exclusive access to the industry's top tools, tips, tricks, and resources from the biggest and most effective producers on earth. You're going to hear real-life stories of agents that went from nothing to something, zero to hero, and how changing the lives of their clients has changed their own lives financially. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and share it with someone you think will find value as well. For those of you just joining us, let me introduce you to Stacy Raske, one of my favorite people on the entire planet. Not only is she going to be joining us at DTDW in Scottsdale in January, but Stacy's a badass year-round. If you read the description, what was it? You specialize in the unfuckery of your mind and business.
Mm-hmm. Mind and business unfuckery.
Okay, there you go. So,
it's the Cliff Notes version. I do have my more appropriate elevator pitch. It helps you really clarify based on
the one that got you in the bank.
That is exactly what got me in the bank.
No, so the whole point of this, Stacy, is for everybody. You're going to share your message on stage, and then you're going to be out mingling in the crowd, sitting at the table with people in the VIP section and everything at DTDW. I want people to get to know the Stacy that earned the stage, because something that's unique about our events is we don't sell the stage. You couldn't buy it from me if you wanted to. I'm already losing money on this event, and that's okay. I'd rather live my values, but you've earned this stage. And I want people to get to know the Stacy that's earned it.
Thank you.
We're just going to dive into it. We're so limited on time.
Yeah.
When did you decide that you wanted to be an unfucker?
That's a good one. I love it. Wait, it was really jumping into the entrepreneur journey altogether. What a lot of people don't know, even though I've been, I'd say entrepreneurship consistently for almost 15 years, but my rock bottom moment was 10 years ago. And it was really from that place and coming out of that and rebuilding myself. I started with me. I was my first client, and everything that I've done since then, focusing in the coaching, mentoring, consulting, strategy space, has been taking what I've been leaning into, what I've been learning, and living and leading by example first, and then teaching it to other people who are just like me.
So what? Because I know you went through, you and I have known each other for a little while now, and we've swapped stories and the whole 9 yards, but you went through a period in life when, not just business, but in life, when you didn't know if you wanted to do life anymore.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah, that is literally that rock bottom moment. It was spending a lifetime wearing the mask of who I should be. So really going back to childhood, learning that love, attention, value, validation, everything was external. I never learned esteem or confidence or really how to build a relationship with myself. So everything was about performance, right? So it's your grades, it's your athletics, it's your SAT score, it's your all of the things external. Because I grew up in a household with parents who are good people, but they had their own traumas and issues, and both of them were emotionally unavailable. I learned to associate everything through that type of achievement and performance. And eventually following that prescribed pathway of go to college and get your degree and get corporate job because it's safe and follow the rules and do all of the stuff that was given to me was in complete misalignment with my calling, my purpose in the world. And it took me getting 35 years plus down that journey before I had that gift and blessing of a rock bottom moment where it was, I'm done with life and planning to end it before I woke up the next day. And I was like, whoa, okay. And the lesson I learned from that, the gift was, I'm done trying to control anything other than myself, because I was spending all of this time from outside of the military, my time in the military. So for those of you who don't know, Iraq War veteran. And my time in the military is one of those kind of divergences. And I did well there, but I got hurt in Iraq. So I'm a disabled veteran, medically discharged, and then immediately went back to that same prescribed pathway. So it was a really interesting kind of juxtaposition of two extremely different paths. get out, get hurt, get out, and get my degree, go into big pharma of all things. So I'm very aware of big corporate entities and how they work and leadership inside of these entities. And it was just this one of the variables contributing to that rock bottom moment. And it was just not anything about who I am, what I'm about. And now it's very adamant, just like you, why we get along so well, right? Being this person who lives in their values and is expressing that in everything that we do to be in integrity.
That's not always an easy thing, right? I did Doug Mitchell, right? So I did a podcast recording for the new podcast, which you're going to be on in January, I think early January. I did a podcast recording with him. And one of the things he mentioned was he was so far out of integrity with everything for years. And a few years ago, he decided to really establish core values, implement them in his personal life. Him and his ex-wife ended up getting back together. And one of the key decisions they made was to ensure the delivery and the implementation of those core values in their business. And I was like, and how's that going? And what he said next, it shocked me a little bit, but at the same time, I feel it because I've seen it. What he said was, it put me out of business. I was making millions and it put me out of business. I'm making hundreds of thousands and we're rebuilding, but I ended up having to shut my business down. I couldn't, it was too far gone to save. I don't know if you can speak to that, because I know you work with people day in and day out, and folks are wondering, like, why the hell is Stacy going to come talk? This is a life insurance conference. Y'all are going to see, but I don't know if you can speak to that kind of conversation with Doug. It's something I felt, but it also hit me so damn hard as far as your values don't always mean you're getting a better paycheck. They just mean that maybe you want to do more tomorrow.
That's true. And the inevitable pathway is that continuing to be in integrity with yourself, hold to your boundaries, hold to your values, that consistency over time, you'll be able to rebuild and more. However, when you do get the clarity of what's most important to you, it might not be rebuilding something to that level because of the costs associated with it. The key thing for me and what I am bringing as a coach to numerous insurance industry professionals is focusing on the mindset, the leadership, the boundaries. And when you have that level of clarity with yourself, it drives how you hold to your boundaries. And most people love this kind of warm, fuzzy conceptual term of boundaries, but they don't know what that actually looks like. And they don't know how to build the systems with themselves to hold to that. Because the values are going to drive your decisions, but how do you sabotage proof yourself so you stop canceling on yourself, stop canceling on your family, stop canceling on date nights with your significant other, not making the time or investing the energy in growing your business, working on your business because you're too busy being in it because of these old stories, beliefs, and programs that are actually keeping you stuck. Nothing will get in your way more than you in your own journey to success. And I'm here to help you step out of that.
So can you provide, for those that are having a hard time connecting the dots, because again, you and I speak the same language and we've been doing this thing for a minute, but for those that are having a hard time connecting the dots, can you give like a real life example? You work with hundreds and thousands of insurance agents you've worked with over the years and improved their lives. And like at the end of the day, one of the things I preach is, you want to be a good agent, you got to be a good person. You got to be a good husband or father or wife or spouse, or like you got to, if you spend all day worrying about the sore thumb in your life, you don't spend any time paying attention to the 4 healthy fingers you have, maybe running your agency being one of those. And that's really, you talk about boundaries and balance and all these things. It's so imperative. Do you have any like real world examples of the implementation of that and what people have seen either from not following through or from following through?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I would say the easiest pain point for most people is time. That's where we see it the most, is how are you best utilizing your time? But what's interesting is time, how you manage your time is not the source of the problem. It's the symptom. If you're in your business doing all of these things that you don't necessarily need to be doing because of your inability to let go or to delegate or utilize the systems that Carson's providing you with automations, you're still going to be in the office working 60, 70 hours a week and not showing up to your kid's baseball game. Or I know some people who prioritize so many of those personal things, but they're so tied to time equals money that your business is constantly limited by the amount of time you're investing in it because you're not using your energy and time wisely to actually leverage what you can do. And so that's really the big pain point, is most people see time equals money. And the further along you get into business and entrepreneurship, you understand that time does not equal money. That's the employee mindset.
Yeah.
And most of us come from that. So how you manage your time is actually how you manage your money, but that's not where we want to attack the problem.
Yeah. So, so where do we? Because one of the things that, like, I teach and coach hundreds and thousands of agents. And one of the things I always tell them is you need to control your time. If you fail to make time to do successful things, you won't have successful outcomes. That's just math. 2 + 2 = 4, right? But what you're saying is it's definitely worth not just treating the symptom in the moment. When you already have a cold, yeah, take a throat drop. But let's figure out why you got the cold in the first place. Maybe you're not exercising and eating right and taking your vitamin D. And I guess what's that deeper level? Because again, I'm treating the symptom per se, and then we go on from there. But what's underneath that? If I taught somebody to time block and really install good systems and processes to guarantee they're spending the right amount of time in the right place in the right way, what would you come in and talk to somebody about as far as not needing that installation in the first place, because they get over that self-sabotage where they're going to do dumb things when they could be doing smart things?
Oh, for sure. So usually step one is really looking at what are all the things you need to let go of. There's so much stuff that we waste time and energy trying to control that is not actually your responsibility. It's not even within your control.
Like
There's
what?
So outcomes. How many times do we make a money goal and at the end of the day, you can't control the outcome?
Oh my God. So Stacy, literally, I'm plugged in a little bit more. I know you're plugged into the insurance world, but I'm plugged in all day, every day. There's a lot going on in insurance, regulation, commission cuts, all this stuff going on, right? And some of my best friends are some of the biggest producers in the world. They have 20, 30, $40 million books of business on the property casualty side. They're making millions in revenue and losing money. The craziest thing is this, right? With all the rate changes and regulations and all, they're spending all their time on the phone with home office like they're going to do a damn thing to fucking change it instead of what they could control.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. I think that's a pretty like realistic, tangible example right now, frankly, of what you're talking about. So what would you, if you had an agent like that, maybe they're making hundreds of thousands, maybe they're making millions, maybe they're making tens of thousands. They're early in the career, but it's more important to them right now, that ego investment, to spend the time on the phone at home office where they're not going to change shit, than spending the time working what they can control. I don't know. What would you say? Because this is such a prevalent conversation right now.
Of course it is. And that's the thing. For somebody who loves talking about the mindset and the boundaries and stuff like that, everything I do is very tactical and strategic, which is why you and I get along so well. And it's looking at investing more of your time and energy in what you actually have control over. Because at the end of the day, you cannot make somebody buy from you. You cannot make your provider change their commission rates. You cannot speed up certain people in doing their roles, right? Even in this industry, how many times are you waiting on clients to upload their documents? How many times you're waiting on review from further up the pipeline to get back to you, or the medical, whatever it is. There's so many variables outside of your control. So the less you worry about those variables and the more you focus on how can you reduce or eliminate some variables, because there are some within the process to accelerate things. But more importantly, what do you have control over? How you're showing up. Are you doing the things that lead to the desired outcome? Because that's what you have control over. Who are you talking to? How are you following up with people? How are you planning your presence, whether it's online, within the community, to build your brand? How are you building those strategic partnerships and relationships based on your ideal client? What are the things in your control? Are you training your team properly? How are you creating a culture and a community within your organization and within your book of business? Those are the things you have control over, rather than wasting time and energy worrying about shit you can't control. But that's going to equate to what shows up in your bank account at the end of the month, the end of the quarter, and the end of the year. Focusing on what you can control, keeping it super simple. And the cool thing is, the more you focus on what you can control, you are way less stressed. And you end up working less, because the success formula is 50% thinking, 25% planning, and 25% execution. But most people get a wild idea and they just jump right into execution, maybe a little planning. But they don't take a step back and think, how can this be easier? Who can I ask for help? And what resources do I already have at my disposal to get that desired outcome and those results that I want faster and easier? So I have less stress, more time, and more profit.
Why don't people do that? Is it an ego investment? Is it ignorance, arrogance?
At the core, if we go into the physiological side of things, when we go into stress response, we're not thinking with the best parts of our brain, right? The
lizard brain acting.
Lizard survival brain, primitive brain goes off. And that is where we're going to default into our sabotage cycles, our patterns and habits to stay safe. That's what happens. So the more we are able to think and have a 30,000 foot view in advance, then craft a plan and then execute, it helps to sabotage proof. But most people, they don't understand when you get into business for yourself, it is a constant stream of triggers of all your BS stories. Everything is basically a crisis, at least to your body, because everything is new and uncomfortable. So everything is unsafe, survival. So we're always going to default to what is going to keep us safe rather than what is going to support the bottom line. So you have to create systems and habits and different plans for yourself to help work around those things. But there's always ways for things to be easier and more effortless to give you a bigger ROI. But again, we've got these stories that feed the ego, that say success must be hard, that I've got to work hard in order to earn money or prove my worth or deservability, right? All of that subconscious, hate to say it, that's 95% of what's driving the ship right now. And if you don't get that in order, the big vision just doesn't happen.
Switching gears a little bit. I know we only have a couple minutes left because we both have a hard stop.
And we both could talk for hours.
Oh my God. And we do all the time. For those that don't know, Stacy and I have a monthly call where we just talk for hours.
Yeah. We're just such great friends.
What's the most devastating thing to ever happen in your entire life?
Mine? Devastating?
Yeah.
Boy.
I have a follow-up question to this, but...
Okay. Gosh. I don't know what I could decide is devastating. I would say the rock bottom moment was the most identity shattering moment. I think, as a big, painful shift, because it was the last time I was suicidal. It was a deep, dark space. I weighed twice as much as I do now. My marriage was falling apart. I'd lost my corporate career. There were a lot of reasons to end my life, legitimately. So I'd say that moment before the gift of the lesson was probably, because it's literally, I'm standing in the kitchen shoving food in my face and chasing it with booze and bawling my eyes out. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? And this little voice pops in my head and says, oh, honey, you're trying to make yourself look as ugly on the outside as you feel on the inside because you hate yourself. That's a tough pill to swallow at a rock bottom moment. And the follow-up is, yeah, you made this. Your choices. That's a whole lot of personal responsibility when I've been functioning in this disempowered victim energy for decades. It's a lot. So it was devastating, but it was the best gift that I ever received. And then it's been nothing but continued blessings through the pain, because there's probably every year something devastating until you get to the other side of it and you're like, oh, that's why, because you see the lesson.
So what's the most significant introduction you've ever had in your life?
To a person? Who is the most impactful person? There have been many in different seasons of my life. I would say the most poignant introduction I had actually was to Kirk Duncan. Was my very first mentor ever, right out of that rock bottom moment. It was the first time I was willing to say, okay, what I've been doing is not working, and I'm willing to ask for help. And so you could always go back to say the introductions to the people who were willing to introduce me to that person. And it was all divine timing and this beautiful gift. But yeah, to meet somebody in this state or in this space, to hold space for me, to be able to work on my shit rather than be in my shit. That was a gift.
Love that. So what? Last question. And then I swear to God, I will let you go. I've asked this of everybody so far, by the way. This is a very different kind of event. This is not an event where speakers come in, they do their shit, they go hang out in the green room and munch ants on a log. I like ants on a log, celery, peanut butter, raisins on top. But you're not just in green room and gone. Literally, Stacy, we're putting you at a table with 11 or 12 other people the entire fucking day. And I'm not even going to apologize because there are going to be 12 amazing people. You're an amazing person. It's going to be great. But if this was the last event you ever did, if it was your last opportunity to ever give value, because that's who's getting the stage, just so everybody knows. And Stacy, I know you know, my stage is for people who will give value without expectations. It wasn't bought. It wasn't paid for. There's no, hey, Carson's giving me tickets to the Las Vegas Raiders game. It's just, you're giving value because you care. If people find value in you, they'll find you. And that's how it works. But if this was your last opportunity to ever share value publicly, knowing that you're there all day long, you're mingling with people. And the propensity of people is to want to come and take a selfie and be like, for Instagram. Instead of doing that, what do you wish they would talk to you about?
The statement I always leave with people is, it's only as hard as you make it. You have control over that. And so my challenge to you is to come up to me with a specific challenge. And in just a few minutes, I will help you get to the root of it so you know how to stop making it so freaking hard.
Yeah, I love that. I freaking love that. Anything else you want to leave these folks with before I cut us off?
No, make sure you get your ass at this event. It is going to be absolutely phenomenal. I challenge you to be there. I challenge you to invest in your vision and your dream, because this is the place to do it. You're a doer. I'm a doer. And we balance it by who we are being. And we're going to cover all of it. It's going to be very tactical. It's going to be very practical. So the person who shows up is not who's going to be leaving this room. And that's exciting. So I dare you.
Wrap it up so much better than I could. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll see y'all.
This has been another excellent episode of the Rev Your Agency podcast, remember something. Nothing happens if you don't do the damn work. So take what you got from this, take what you've learned, and go implement it today. It's not about having everything. It's about having one thing and implementing it every day so that you can take your production, your agency, and the lives of everybody around you to the next level. If you could use some help with it, hit us up at revagencysyndicate.com and jump in. We run a mastermind that is dedicated and hell-bent 10 times more than this podcast could ever be into helping you have the education, collaboration, and accountability that you need to go to the next level. Whether you are captive, independent, whether you're life only, or you focus on multiple lines, it doesn't matter. We're here to help. Let us help you.